Kyiv, August the 9th, 1942. A small stadium on the edge of an occupied city. Two teams walk onto the pitch. On one side, Flakelf, a team of German Luftwaffe airmen, fit, fed, and backed by the most feared occupying army in the world. On the other, a team of Ukrainian bakery workers in borrowed red shirts, half-starved, exhausted, and, before the war, some of the finest footballers in the Soviet Union. Legend says that before kickoff, an SS officer entered their dressing room and gave them a simple instruction: lose this match, or face the consequences. 90 minutes later, they had disobeyed. Within a year, 4 of them were dead. This is the story of FC Start, the so-called death match, and the truth behind one of football's darkest and most misunderstood legends. To understand what happened in that stadium, you have to go back before the war. In the 1930s, Dynamo Kyiv were one of the great names of Soviet football, and their goalkeeper, Mykola Trusevich, was a star. Tall, theatrical, adored by the crowds, famous for joking with spectators even in the middle of a match. Around him played serious talent. Ivan Kuzmenko, a forward with a shot so powerful he trained with a ball twice the normal weight. Oleksiy Klimenko, a young defender considered one of the brightest prospects in the country. Football in Kyiv was more than a game. It was identity, pride, escape. None of those men could have imagined that within a few years, the sport they loved would become a matter of life and death, quite literally. In June 1941, Germany invaded the Soviet Union. By September, after one of the largest encirclement battles in history, Kyiv fell. More than 600,000 Soviet soldiers were captured. The city that followed was a place of hunger, curfews, and fear. Within days of the occupation, the ravine at Babin Yar on the city's edge became the site of one of the war's most horrific massacres. The footballers of Dynamo and Lokomotiv Kyiv were scattered by the war, some captured as prisoners, some in hiding, all of them starving like everyone else. Trusevich, the great goalkeeper, was found in 1942 not guarding a net, but sweeping floors. Football seemed finished. The stadiums were silent. And then, from the most unlikely place imaginable, the game came back to Kyiv, through a bakery. Bakery number 3 was run by a man named Iosif Kordik, a football fanatic who, by an accident of paperwork, held a protected status under the occupation. When he realized that the man sweeping his floors was Mykola Trusevich himself, he made him an offer. Work at the bakery and bring your friends. One by one, the old players arrived, from Dynamo, from Lokomotiv, given jobs as loaders and yard sweepers that came with something priceless: bread. In the spring of 1942, the occupation authorities, eager to project an image of normal life, allowed a city football league. Kordik registered his bakery team under a simple, defiant name, FC Start. Their kit was a set of red shirts the players had salvaged, red, of all colors, in a city under Nazi rule. They trained on wasteland after 12-hour shifts. Most of them were malnourished. It didn't matter. They could still play. What followed in the summer of 1942 was astonishing. Start played match after match against the teams of the occupation, Ukrainian sides, Hungarian garrison teams, Romanian soldiers, German military units, and they won every single one. They beat a Hungarian garrison side, then beat them again in a rematch the Hungarians demanded. They thrashed a German artillery team 6-0. Word spread through Kyiv. For the city's population, something remarkable was happening in those stands. The men who occupied their streets, who controlled every loaf of bread and every hour of curfew, could be beaten, at least between 2 goalposts. Every victory was a small, deniable act of resistance, and everyone understood it: the crowds, the players, and increasingly the German administration itself. A team of starving bakery workers was becoming a problem, and so a stronger opponent was found. Flakelf was the team of the German Luftwaffe, anti-aircraft gunners, airfield personnel, soldiers of the force that ruled the skies. On August the 6th, 1942, they faced FC Start. The result was a humiliation. Start won 5-1. For the occupiers, this would not stand. Within 3 days, a rematch was arranged, and this time posters went up across Kyiv announcing the game. Flakelf had reportedly reinforced their side with fresh, fit players. The match was set for Sunday, August the 9th, at Zenit Stadium. The stands filled with Ukrainian workers and German soldiers, seated apart. Armed guards with dogs stood at the touchline. The atmosphere, survivors later recalled, was less like a football match and more like a trial. And according to the legend, that is exactly what it was, because of what was said in the Start dressing room before kickoff. The story goes that before the match, an SS officer visited the Start players and warned them, politely and unmistakably, that they should consider the consequences of winning. The referee that day was an SS man. The match itself was brutal. Survivors described kicks, elbows, and blows. The referee simply ignored. Trusevich was knocked to the ground. Start fell behind early. And then, slowly, the bakery workers took over. Kuzmenko struck one of his thunderbolts from distance. Goals followed either side of halftime. By the final minutes, Start were leading 5-3. And then came the moment that became legend. Young Klimenko, clean through on goal, rounded the German goalkeeper, and instead of scoring, stopped the ball on the line and kicked it back upfield, toward the center circle, a gesture that said, "We don't even need the goal." The referee blew the whistle early. Start had won, 5-3. The crowd erupted. The Germans sat in silence. Nothing happened that day. The players went home, back to the bakery, but the clock had started ticking. A week later, on August the 16th, Start played again and won again, 8-0 against a Ukrainian side. It was their last match. 2 days later, the Gestapo arrived at Bakery number 3. The players were arrested one by one and taken to the secret police headquarters, accused, officially, not of winning a football match, but of being members of the NKVD, the Soviet security service, because pre-war Dynamo had been the sports club of the Soviet police. For most of them, that membership had meant nothing more than a wage and a place on a team sheet. The interrogations lasted weeks. One player, Mykola Korotkik, who genuinely had served in the NKVD, was identified, tortured, and died in Gestapo custody. He was the first of the team to die. The others were sent to a place whose name still chills Kyiv, the Syrets labor camp, next to the ravine of Babin Yar. Syrets was a place designed to work people to death, beatings, starvation, summary punishments. The footballers of Start endured it through the autumn and the brutal winter of 1942. Then, in February 1943, after acts of sabotage in the city, the camp commandant ordered a reprisal. Prisoners were counted off and executed. Among the dead that day, the 24th of February 1943, were 3 footballers. Ivan Kuzmenko, the forward with the heaviest shot in Kyiv, Oleksiy Klimenko, the boy who had refused to score, and Mykola Trusevich, the goalkeeper who had rebuilt the team from a bakery floor. Witnesses said Trusevich died still wearing his goalkeeper's jersey under his prison clothes. He was 33 years old. The rest of the team survived in hiding or in the camps until Kyiv was liberated in November 1943 and carried the story with them out of the war. Not all of them died. Makar Honcharenko, the quick little winger who had scored in the death match, was smuggled out of danger and spent the rest of the occupation hiding in attics and cellars, moved from house to house by people who risked their lives to protect a footballer. Others survived Syrets itself, living through roll calls where the man standing next to them was taken and shot. When the Red Army finally retook Kyiv in November 1943, the survivors emerged into a ruined city, and found themselves caught in a new dilemma. To the returning Soviet authorities, any man who had lived under German occupation was suspect. The same players who had defied the occupiers on the pitch were now interrogated about why they had played football for the Germans' entertainment at all. For years, the survivors spoke about the summer of 1942 carefully, quietly, or not at all. After the war, Soviet authorities turned the story into legend, the death match, in which heroes were executed for daring to defeat fascism on the football pitch. Books, films, and monuments followed. But the documented history is more complicated and, in some ways, more human. The executions came 6 months after the match, in a reprisal that killed many prisoners, not only footballers. Start even played and won another match after defeating Flakelf. A German investigation in 2005 found no proof that the result itself triggered the killings. And yet, the warning before kickoff, the SS referee, the violence on the pitch, all of it is testified by survivors. What is beyond doubt is this. In an occupied city, a team of starving workers refused, again and again, to lose to their occupiers, knowing it could cost them everything. They were arrested, and 4 of them never came home. Today, outside Dynamo Kyiv's stadium, a monument shows 4 footballers standing together, carved in stone. Kyiv has never forgotten them. The death match has inspired films around the world. Even Hollywood borrowed the story. Strip away the propaganda, and what remains is perhaps football's purest example of the game as defiance. Men who had lost their country, their freedom, and nearly their lives, but who, for 90 minutes at a time, could not be ruled. Trusevich, Kuzmenko, Klimenko, Korotkik. Remember the names, because the final score that mattered was never 5-3. It was the simple fact that they played to win. This has been the Football Oracle. If stories like this one deserve to be remembered, subscribe. There are many more the history books barely mention. Thank you for watching.